What is up, everybody? Time is short at the moment, so my lens reviews don't come in that often because time is running out a lot lately. So today I found a little bit of time and I'm doing a review about the Isco Göttingen Tele-Westanar 135mm f3.5. So if you're interested in this lens, stay tuned. So let's talk about the company Isco Göttingen first, because I think a lot of you haven't heard of that. It's a traditional German manufacturer of optical systems, especially for lenses, and it had really good connections to the Schneider Kreuznach company, which also produced lovely lenses. It was founded in 1936 and it produced a lot of military equipment at this time, and the lenses that were produced in the early days were for the Air Force. So they had cameras in the planes of the Air Force, and they were Isco Göttingen lenses on there. And after the Second World War, those were made into normal production lenses. They had quite a huge variety. They had a few names. There was the Westar, the Westanar, the Westron, the Westromat, the Iscomat, the Iscotar, the Isconar, the Tele-Iskaron, and the Iscorama. So quite a lot of different names and quite of a huge palette of different products. So let's talk a bit about the Tele-Westanar, which I have right here. So this is the Tele-Westanar. It has 135mm and it opens up to f3.5, which was a huge selling point back then. Mine has the M42 mount, but you also could get it for the Exacta bayonet. So it is a 5-lenser and they are grouped together in 4 groups. The aperture is locked down, so you have a 3.5, a 4, a 5.6, an 8, an 11, and 16 and an 22. So they are stepped, you can't choose between them, which is a good selling point for photographers, but a bad one if you want to film with it. Another huge selling point for this lens are the 15 aperture blades, which mean that you get circle bokeh all around, even if you step down, which is really lovely. The lens is not that common, so yeah, bit of a special lens. The nearest focusing distance is one of the most problematic things about this lens, because it is at 2.5 meters, which makes it kind of difficult to use for portraits and stuff, because you really have to go quite a bit away from your subject to shoot it. So this lens is from the 70s, but it was produced from the 50s onwards, so it was quite an outdated design when it was bought. When I got it, the focusing mechanism was really stuck, but I got it free and now it's running quite nicely. The haptic feedback is really good. It's well made. It's quite a heavy lens. It is completely out of metal, and now the focusing ring is turning really smooth, so you can really dial in precisely what you want to have your focus on. So yeah, it's a really positive feedback you get from this lens. It works great. And a special feature that this lens has, which makes it's the first one I've ever seen, is you have an indicator for a moving indicator for what's in focus. So that's quite an interesting thing. I will show it to you later. Another thing that it has, the aperture is spring-loaded. So this is because if you would use it in the old days with your film camera, then you would want to focus it with the open aperture, because then you can dial in the focus right, then you would close it up for the shot. And this closing of the aperture would be automatically, so yeah, therefore it is like so. But that's not a problem for using it today, because you don't have to use it. So now let's have a look at picture quality. This was quite a difficult thing to do, because this lens has such a bad near focusing distance, and my test sheet doesn't allow me to get this far away, so I had to improvise a bit. So let's have a look at I will show you therefore the picture quality at two different pictures. Maybe we can have a look and see what we can see. So we are looking right now at the at a wall with a wallpaper, a textured one, and this picture was done with the aperture wide open, so at f3.5. It was done at ISO 2000 and at 2/50th of a second, so that we don't get motion blur. Yes, so at ISO 2000 we will have a bit of noise from the ISO, but that should not be of a concern. So what can we see right here? What we can see is quite a bit of light fall off. So right here in the corners the picture is really dark and the center is quite a lot lighter. Let's zoom in at 100%. Sharpness is good. We can see the noise right here, but that's from the settings. And sharpness on the corner is a bit mushy, so if we compare those kind of bumps to the bumps in the middle, they are a lot clearer defined. Let's have a look at the other corner. Same right here, same down there. Let's go back into the center. Yes, so that's one thing that we can see. Let's go over into the next picture. Let's have a look. This was done with f5.6. So if we compare those, we can see there is still a bit of light fall off, but it is a lot less. Let's have a look. Sharpness in the center is even better. And if we go into the corner, we have fall off right here. You can see there's a lot of fall off on the edges, but it is better to what we have seen at f3.5. But I'm not impressed with the corners. They are quite dark and not that sharp. So let's have a look at two different pictures. For the same thing, let's have a look at this one. This is at f3.5. We can see the texture here, right here, really good, really lovely, good sharpness. And if we go to the right, the sharpness falls right off. Let's have a look at right here to the center, to the left. Yes. So we can see the same thing. Darker corners, lighter middles, and so light fall off and sharpness fall off. Let's go to f5.6. Let's zoom in. Improved sharpness overall. Let's go to the corner. There's also a lot sharper, and the corners right here are not that dark. So you should use this lens at f5.6. At f3.5 you get good sharpness in the middle, but not that great. Let's have a look at another picture. By the way, those are our raw files, so nothing done in post. You can see it right over here. There's nothing done on clarity and stuff like that. So those are the pure raw files. Let's have a look at this little guy. It should be sharp right here. Yeah, and there's one thing that I can see right here, and it is that it's not really tack sharp. If you see it right here, it should be sharp, but it really isn't. So at f3.5 there is nothing really in focus really well. So I'm a bit disappointed at the most open setting. What we can see, what we also can see is, yeah, the sharpness fall off is quite nice. Let's have a look at right up here. You can see it's right sharp right here. Not really that sharp, but yeah, it's okay-ish. I'm not impressed with this lens at f3.5, but what we can see is quite a lovely transition into the bokeh of the background. That's really nice. So now let's have a look at this one. This is at f5.6. We can see it improves really lovely in sharpness right here. Have a look at that. This is much sharper than the one before. If we have a look at this part here, really sharp, good fall off, really nice separation of the background. That's because of the 135mm. So at f5.6 I'm really happy with the results. At f3.5 not so much. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah, have a look at this. It's great sharpness, good fall off, really lovely, like that one. Here I wanted to have a look at the highlights. Yes, I think the rendering of the highlights is quite nice. One thing that you have to pay attention is the contrast levels in backlighting. So if you have the sun in your pictures, you might need a lens cap. No, what? That's not called the lens cap. Yeah, so the sun blocker for the lens. It really needs one. Let's have a look at this. I have done 3 pictures of this column of a chair to have a look at the sharpness levels on the corner. So those are at f3.5. So I'm not happy with the sharpness. It's okay, but not great. Let's have a look at the one right to the right. It's less sharp, less pronounced, darker and less contrast. Let's have a look at the one on the right. Yes, and it's the same right here. Last picture. Ah no, it's not the last one. Yeah, there we go. This guy I wanted to do a bokeh test. So he is in focus. and it's on the wide open setting, so we are at 3.5, and I think it is a lovely bokeh. It is a really good separation of the background. Yes, and I'm really happy with that. So that concludes the picture quality test. So let's sum this lens up. Let's start with the build quality. Build quality and pricing of this lens are great. They go for 50 to 70 euros, and the build quality is really excellent. Just metal and glass. It feels lovely in the hands. It's really nice to operate, so I'm really impressed with this part of the lens. Now let's talk about the picture quality. In my opinion, the f3.5 is not usable if you want to have tech-sharp images. So if you want this lens to produce nice and lovely pictures, you have to stop it down to at least f5.6. Maybe if you want to have the effect of a smooth skin, then you might use it at f3.5, but that's just an artistic thing. It doesn't really produce great contrast and great sharpness at f3.5. At f5.6 it is a really solid lens. I love the bokeh. The foreground and the background bokeh, they are really nice. You get good separation with it. But this lens has a big problem, and that is the near focusing distance. This limitates the lens quite a bit. There are ways around it. There are helicoid adapters which let you put the lens a bit more away and therefore shorten the distance. But in my opinion, this is something like cheating, because the lens itself could not do this. So if you bought this back then, you couldn't do that. So I won't consider this. Yeah, and for me that's a problem, because I like to shoot portraits, and you have to put a lot of distance between you and your subject. So that's not a positive thing for me. It's not as problematic as I may put it out, but for me it's not my lens, and I don't want to use it anymore, and yeah, therefore it will go away. So, but if you shoot normal portraits and stuff like that, you may use it for that stuff. Yeah, it depends on what you want to use it for. It's not a lens for me, maybe it is for you. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good one. Goodbye.